Alright guys, I'm back. Please tell me if you can see me and if you can hear me as well. If you do, then we're going to get started right away. Alright guys, can you hear me loud and clear? And can you see me as well? Okay, so Kinley, how are you doing, my friend? Alright, Shenwan. Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. So you guys are mostly on Twitch right now. And guys, I'm really not sure what's happening with the YouTube channel. Again, when we met last time, I was able to fix the problem, but it seems that the problem is back again. So I'm not really sure what's happening with YouTube. Uh, all right, Kinley, you're doing good. That's great. Romina is saying that the audio and the video work. That's perfect. All right, guys, we're going to get started. Now, I'm really hoping that the people present here today already have R and RStudio installed on their computer, because today, last time we kind of, tried to establish the background for everything that we're going to study. But today we will actually, get into our tool of work, which is RStudio mainly. And so there are a few things we're going to do basically. We're going to try to get to know the interface. We're going to try to understand what the different parts of RStudio are and why we use them. Actually, we won't be able to talk about everything in RStudio. We will kind of discover it over time, but we'll talk about the main parts of R and RStudio. Well, Shenwan, that's great that you installed everything. All right, then we're going to talk about two ways of doing work in RStudio. Using the console and using scripts. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to learn how to set up a project. Okay, we're going to set up how to learn how to set up a project in RStudio, and finally, we will actually set up a project, and we will talk about the data that we'll be using for our tutorial. So today we'll just do the basic stuff, and also one thing that is important that we'll talk about is we'll talk about the stream schedule. Okay, so we need to have a set schedule that we're going to follow every week, so we're going to talk about it in the end, and a few other things. All right guys, so let's get started. If you installed everything, you should have these two icons on your computer. You should have an icon for R and another icon for RStudio. Okay, and last time I told you that R is the engine which is going to do all the work, all the computations, and RStudio is the dashboard, if you want. It's the car body that allows us to interface with the engine. All right, so everything that is, everything that we're doing is done by R. Okay, but RStudio allows us to kind of interface with R in a very nice way. So please guys, go ahead and open up RStudio. Okay, so if you have opened up RStudio, you should have something that looks like mine here, except that your background is probably white, okay, instead of dark. Now, I like working with dark backgrounds myself. I think it's better for the eyes, especially if you do a lot of work at night. It's much better this way. So I'm going to show you as well how to do dark mode. It's actually fairly simple. For those of you interested, this is how to do it. You can go to Tools, in the menu on top here, Tools. Okay. Then after Tools, you can go to Global Options. All right. After Global Options, you can click on Appearance, like this, Appearance. And in that new window, after clicking on Appearance, we have Editor Theme, okay? And one of the dark, themes is Pastel or Pastel. I don't really know how to read this, on dark, and that's the one that I'm using. So if you're interested in doing it, you can just click on Pastel on dark, then click on Apply, and then OK. All right, and maybe I think it's going to restart RStudio for you or not. I'm not really sure, but I think it should be able to restart it for you. Okay, so if you like the dark theme, this is how you can do it. Okay, guys, so let's get to know our user interface. Okay, let's learn the different sections of our user interface, because we're going to spend a lot of time here. Actually, all the time that we're going to spend is going to be here, so we might as well take some time and try to understand what the different sections are. Okay, so let's talk about this first big section here. It is called the console, and the name is let me actually increase my font size a little bit so that you guys can see it better. But this here is the console, as you can see, right? And that's the name for the console. We'll talk more about the console, but this is where we interact with R. This is where we give R some instructions, and this is where the feedback from the instruction gets back to us. Okay, so we have two other tabs here. You have terminal and jobs. Let's not really worry about these right now. It's not really important for now. Okay, we really focus on the console. And you have, a message here, the current version of R, and so on and so forth, and a few other things. Okay, now let's talk about this upper right corner here. All right, so what we have here is the environment. This is one of the panes that we're going to use a lot. Okay, it's going to be used because it's kind of convenient. You see, when we start working with data, or when we start working generally in R, there are many things that we will be, creating or importing from outside R, and we will store them. Like, for example, when you import data into R, you have to store that data somewhere. Okay, so if you store it somewhere, well, whatever you store, whatever you save in your R session is going to show up in the environment here. Okay, so it's very, very convenient in the sense that it gives us a list of all the saved objects. Okay, and if the term object is too difficult for you, don't worry about it, but it's for lack of a better word, it gives you the list of all saved stuff that you work with in your R session, in your current R session. So you have the list of everything here, which is actually pretty neat. Okay, now you also have two tabs here, and the two tabs are history and connections. Okay, history and connections. Again, let's not worry too much about history and connections for now. We're not really going to use them too much as for the moment. We shouldn't really worry too much about it. I think the time will come where we'll use them for other things. Okay, but history is actually fairly easy. So when we start typing code, I can show you what you can find in history. It gives you basically the list of all the code that you've typed, which is good. Okay, now let's focus on this bottom right corner here, which we're going to use a lot too. The first tab is files. So these are essentially the files in your computer. Okay, so if you're looking for a specific file, especially if you want to use it in a project, you don't really need to get out of RStudio and then look for the file. If you want to do it, that's fine, but you can do it directly from within RStudio. And as you can see, all the files are here. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now in R, we can do a lot of data visualization. Okay, and if you are making plots, this is where the plots are going to show up. By the way, let us try something very simple, a very simple plot. Click in the console, make sure that the pointer is blinking, and when it does, type plot. Everything is lowercase. Okay, everything is lowercase. Plot, open parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis type empty cars, like this, empty cars. And once you've done that, just press enter. Okay, if you do it, you will see some sort of plot that will show up. So right now it's too small that you can't really see it very well, but you can click on the zoom button here to make that plot a little bigger, and then you see some, this is called, this is a set of scatter plots. Okay, when we start talking about data visualization, we'll talk more about scatter plots, but this is just an example, you know, of a plot that is made in R, and if you make a plot, it's going to show up under the plot tab here, which is pretty neat. And if you are able to reproduce this plot, please say something in the chat. Okay, just let everybody know that you were able to reproduce this plot. Again, we don't really understand what a plot means, but that's not really the issue for today. Okay, now the next tab, okay, is packages. Packages, guys, that's one of the most important components of the R ecosystem. You know, everything that you use, all the functions that you use in R are part of a package. Okay, so basically you can see packages as toolboxes, okay, that you can freely download from the internet and then use them for your work. Okay, so again, a package is a toolbox. So some of you here are biologists, you know, so there are some packages that contain a lot of interesting functions for biology related work. In my field, I do a lot of time series econometrics, and there are many very powerful packages for time series econometrics. Thank you for letting us know, Romina, that it worked for you. Okay, other people are in different fields, finance and whatnot. There are packages that you can use in order to do your work in these different fields. So packages are really a great component of the R ecosystem. It is a lot of work that people have done, and you can use that work that they have done for your own work. So this is really great. All right, inside RStudio, we also have an embedded help system. So this is actually very great in the sense that you have some tutorials, you have many things, you know, that you have access to, you know, learn R online, current tax views, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of resources there that you can explore, yourself if you want. That's perfectly fine. Now the last tab here is Viewer. Viewer is a tab also for some sort of visualization, but this is the type of visualization which cannot be considered a plot. You know, usually plots are in an XY coordinate system. You know, you have the X-axis, you have the Y-axis, right? And then you do basically you represent your data like that. Okay, but a viewer is really something fairly different. So for example, if you're making a map, you know, a map of your country, a map of the place where you live, for example, in some cases, you know, it can be represented in an XY coordinate system because you have the latitude and the longitude. However, in other cases, it's going to be represented mostly in the viewer tab. Okay, this is where you're going to see it for the most part. So that's also kind of interesting. All right, guys. So these are the three panes that we want to talk about. There's a fourth pane that we're going to talk about, and this is called the script. So let's talk about this fourth pane. So please, I would like for you to create a new script, and this is how to do it. There are several ways you can do it. You can click on File, then New File, then RScript. Okay, File, New File, and then you can click on RScript. And as you can see, there are so many types of files that you can create in RStudio. But yeah, you can just click on it, or you can just click on this icon here. Okay, this icon, and when you click on it, you will see RScript, and you can just go ahead and click on it. When you do that, a fourth pane is going to open up right here. Okay, a fourth pane is going to open up as you see right now. Okay, we have new people who have joined us. If you just joined us, can you please say hello in the chat? All right, so we now have a script, and let's talk about the script very quickly. Now, I'd like to know, guys, do we have some problems with the stream? Is everything working? Can you guys follow me, or are we having some issues right now? Or can we all follow? All right. Okay, it's right here. Okay, all right. Romina is saying that it's working for her, and I hope it's the case for everybody. Okay, all right, guys. So let's talk about scripts now. Now, I told you that the console is okay. Great. I'm really happy for the feedback, guys. I told you that the console is that place where you give the computer some instructions, and then you get back the answers. You get back the if you will, the feedback from your instructions. All right. So let's basically do a few other things. You were able to make the plot. That's fine. Let's use R as a calculator. I'm going to do 56 plus 9, and I press enter. Okay. When I do that, you see 65 is the answer for it. Let me do something else. Let's say 74 divided by 7. When I click on it, well, I get, I don't click on it, I press enter instead. You see the answer to the question here. That's 10.57. Okay, let's try something else. Let's say 7 squared, like this. Okay, that's 49. Now, in the console, it is always, you can always do input, output, input, output, input, output. So the console is really a place for interactive work. Okay, for interactive work. And for some cases, it's good. You just ask a question, you get the answer, or you give an instruction, you get the feedback, and so on and so forth. But you see, when you have to work on a big project, it's not really the best. Hey, Willem, welcome. It's not really the best to work from the console if you do that, right? Because sometimes there are many things that you're trying to write down and then execute everything at a go. Well, if you're using the console, it's going to be hard to do that because I don't want to think line by line. Maybe I have a big idea that I want to put down in code and then execute. Well, in a case like that, the console is not going to help you much. And in cases like that, what you want to use instead is a script. So a script is really, in essence, a text file. Okay? And if it is an R script, it is a text file in which you will write your R code. Right? And if you have an R code, well, the R can understand it and interpret it for you. Now, you see, anytime you press enter in the console, you are executing some code. But here, you can actually press enter. You can write anything and press enter. That's perfectly fine. You will just be writing text. Now, if I want to execute that code, I can just decide exactly which code I want to execute. Now, Wilhelm is saying that the YouTube live is inactive. We started today and I tried it again, and for some reason it wasn't working, William. I'm so sorry about that. Please, if you feel that is an issue, you can maybe watch the recording that I'm going to upload on YouTube later. But I'm really not sure why, YouTube keeps, working and not working, working and not working. I'm not really sure. So I will have to look into that because I did some tests and it worked a few days ago and it's not working anymore. Oh, and Mr. Aka Tonishi, welcome. Okay, so again, in the script, you can write as much code as you want, okay? And that's what we're going to do actually. For the first script that we're going to work on, let us look at the basic arithmetic operations in R, okay? Like an addition, for example, all right? So I did 56 plus 9. I'm going to do another addition this time around in my script. 15 plus 80, okay? Now, guys, I am going to encourage you as much as possible to space out your code. So you see, I wrote 15 space plus space 80. I really encourage you to do the same. Okay, do not put everything together, because it's going to decrease the readability of your code. So please try to space it out as much as possible if you can. All right, so this right here is an addition. Okay, and I can go to the next line. Maybe I now want to do a subtraction, so I'm going to do 100 space minus 0.75 like this. Okay, 100 minus 75. 0.75. Okay, let's do a multiplication. 1 times 152. You don't really have to do it exactly like what I'm doing, but just think about anything you want to do. Okay, Willem says that Twitch is not really stable. I am very sorry about it, brother. Maybe one of the things that you may want to do is to decrease the resolution of the stream. Maybe it's going to work slightly better, even though you might not be able to see what I write clearly. But let me increase the font size a little more, so that even with a small resolution, you will still be able to see what we're doing here. So please try to do that and let me know how it goes. Okay. All right, now the last thing, or not the last thing, but the last basic arithmetic operation that we're going to look at is a division, right? So I'm going to divide 1,000 by 8 like this. Okay. All right, so again, we were able to write our code, we were able to write our instructions. However, we do not know what the answers to these instructions are. If we were in the console, that would be easy. We would just write it. For example, 100 minus 0.75. I'm just going to copy and paste. If I press enter, okay, I just get it right here. And don't worry about the warning. I don't think that you will get the same warning message. I did something before starting the stream, and that's why you can see this here. And Romina, thank you very much for your help, and Shen1 as well. Thank you for your help. Okay, so again, if we were in the console, we would be able to see the answer here clearly. Okay, but we are not in the console. So the question is, how are we going to get R to tell us the answer to these questions? It's actually very simple. When you write code on a script, if you want to execute the code, if you want to run the code, you just put your pointer on the line of code. Okay, you can put the pointer on the line of code. So I'm going to put the pointer on the first line of code, and you can press Control Enter. Okay, if you are on a Windows machine, or Command Enter if you're on a Mac machine. Now let me do it right now. 15 plus 80, Control Enter. You see that this code here was transferred to the console, and then the result was also showed in the console, and it's 95. Okay, so that's great. So I can do it for the next one. 100 minus 0.75. When I do it, you see the code is transferred to the console, and I can see the result as well. Then 1 times 152, same. 1,000 divided by 8, same. So I can just press Control Enter to transfer whatever I write in my script to the console and get the result that I'm looking for. Okay, so this is the strategy that we'll be using. We will not be working exactly from the console, but we'll be writing our script and then executing our code from the script. And by the way, guys, at any point, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to type in the chat and let me know what questions you have. Okay, now we're going to learn something else. And for those of you who already have experience in programming, you will know what I'm talking about. And we're going to talk about comments. Yes, Romina. Actually, I wasn't going to start on a very long project today. From next time on, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to send you a link, and that link is going to contain my live code, so that everything that I write will appear live on that link that I send you, and then you'll be able to copy and paste. So yes, this is I am actually going to do it. And for this, what I'm doing right now, of course, we won't do too much, but I'll still post it on Slack. That's for sure. I will do it for you, no problem. Okay, so let's talk about comments, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so this right here, all these mathematical, computations are like code that the computer can understand. Okay, but sometimes you want to write. You're welcome, Romina. You want to write things that you, as a human, can understand. Because, guys, believe me, when you're writing code, you understand that you may understand everything that you're writing right now. But if you allow some time to pass and you get back to your code, you will completely forget. You'll be like, what on earth was I trying to do here? So it is very, very good. It's a good habit to, usually write some comments. And the comments are not for the computer. They are not for R. They are for you. Okay. And in R, in order to write a comment, okay, what you just have to write a pound sign and then write whatever you want after the pound sign. So for example, we can add a title here. So I'm going to add a title, okay, pound sign, and I can write basic arithmetic operations. Okay. All right. Basic arithmetic operations. And you see, I'm actually even going to try to execute that line of comment and see what happens. So you see right now my pointer is on the line and I'm going to press Control Enter. I use a Windows machine. So when I press Control Enter, you see it actually does not even show here. It goes directly to the next available code and then it executes it. So you see 15 plus 80 is what is executed instead of this. Because this is a comment, and comments, the computer completely disregards comments. Okay, William, really, really great that things are working for you now. And thank you very much, guys, for your advice. Okay, so again, basic arithmetic operations, not run, and everything else is run instead. Okay, so I really, really encourage you guys to write comments as much as possible. It's really going to help you a lot. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write comments on the same line as code. Okay, so for example, 15 plus 80, that's an addition. So after the code, on the right hand side, I can actually add a comment there. So let me just add a pound symbol there, and I can write addition. Okay, or that's a sum if you want. I'm going to do it here as well, and that's a subtraction. Okay, the third line of code is a multiplication, and the last one is a division, like this. Okay. All right, so this is just to show you that it is very possible to write your comments on the same lines as your code, okay? But of course, it has to be on the right-hand side of your code. You can put it on the left-hand side. And now I'm going to try to execute. Let me execute the addition. Oops, no, I didn't. I wasn't holding control. All right. Oh, same. Sorry. All right. So now it's working, 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 working. Okay. And now you can see that the comments are showing up, but they don't have any impact. They have no effect. You can see the result here: 125, 152, and so on and so forth. As you can see there. All right. Okay. Now let's add a few more basic, arithmetic operations. For example, if you want to look at an exponent, let's say 8 to the 5th power, just like on a simple calculator, you use that hat symbol. Okay, so this is for an exponent. Okay. So 8 to the 5th power, you can execute it. You'll see what the result is in the console. You can do that. Now, for those of you guys who use, more advanced mathematics like sine and cosine or tangents, well, there are functions for that in R as well, you know. So cosine of 2, okay, sine of 1, okay, that's if you use these kind of things, you can. And of course, there are many other mathematical operations in the R ecosystem. But one mathematical operation that I want to teach you is what is known as the modulo, okay, modulo operator. Now, I'm going to write modulo in the chat so that you guys see. It's M-O-D-U-L-O. All right, modulo. And of course, I'm going to write it here as well in the script anyway. So that's, you know, not a problem. Okay, so what is the modulo operator? Now, let me show you what it does first. So 10. Okay. Now, again, I really would love for you to space out your code. Modulo is basically percent. You know, the percent sign twice and no space in between. That's what the modulo operator is. So 10 modulo 3. And let me write at the comment here. That's the modulo operator. Okay. And if you execute this code, the answer is 1. Okay. And the answer is, what happens? Why is the answer 1? Okay. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Okay. So the modulo operator basically gives you the remainder of a fraction. The remainder of a fraction. So 10 divided by 3, okay, it's basically 3 times 3, which is 9, and the remainder is 1. Okay, and 1 is basically the answer that is here, right? So that's what the modulo operator does. Okay, it gives you the remainder of a fraction. Basically, if you understand now what modulo means, we can already predict what 10 modulo 2 will give us. So 10 divided by 2, that's 2 times 5, which is 10. There is no remainder, right? The remainder is 0. Therefore, when you execute 10 modulo 2, you can see that the remainder is 0. Okay? And you may be wondering, how helpful is this? It depends on what you want to do, guys. It can be very helpful, actually. Okay? The modulo operator can be used for many interesting things. And there's a point I'm going to teach you how to write a function. Like I wrote a function in our first stream, a crazy function that changed an addition to a subtraction or something like that. But let me write a very quick function. And this function, you don't need to write it. If you want to do it, that's fine, but you don't have to. But this is a function that is going to determine whether a number is even or odd. As you know, an even number can be divided by 2, an odd number cannot. Okay. So, and I'm going to use the modulo operator here. So, 10 modulo 2. Okay, I can actually use it in the if-else statement. And again, you don't really need to, to copy it. Don't worry. But again, as Romina asked, this code is going to be in the Slack channel. So please, you feel free to go and get the script there as well if you want to have exactly what this does. So is even. All right, so now let's try it. Basically, if I give an even number to the function, if it is even, it's going to reply yes. If it is not even, it's going to reply no. Let's test it out. Is even, parenthesis, 2. Yes. Okay. Is even, 3. No. Is even, 147. Oops. What am I doing? 147. Of course, no. And so on and so forth. Okay. So what this function does basically is you give it a number and that number is represented by x. Now, once the function receives the number, the function basically computes the remainder of the division of this number by 2. So if x is 15, it's going to divide it by 2 and then calculate the remainder, you know. So if the remainder is 0, then yes, But if the remainder is not 0 when you divide a number by 2, it means that that's not an even number, it's an odd number. So it's going to tell you no. And this uses the very, very convenient function if else, which we're going to talk about very soon. All right, so this is just an application of Modulo, but then it goes way beyond that. I actually wrote a package in R that is helpful for professors for making groups in their classes. Sometimes professors have classes and they want to assign a project and they want groups of 3, but very often the number of students in the class is not a multiple of 3. So sometimes you may have one bigger group or one smaller group, right? So I wrote a package that kind of helps the professor figure out the best way to assign groups for a project. And I used a lot of modulo in that, in that function that I created for doing that. Okay, so there are many things that you can do. It depends on your use case. Alright guys, so these are the basic arithmetic operations, and the main goal of this today was really to learn how to write from a script, and then and then execute from that script, and then see what everything that shows up in the console. Okay, so there's one thing that I also want to show you, and that's a very important concept, guys. Of course, if you look at your console, this is where all your results are. But you see, you shouldn't get attached to the results in your console, because the results in your console are just the consequence, or they're just the output of the code that you wrote. So even if this entire console is cleared out right now, cleared up completely, you shouldn't really worry about it so long as your code is there, because it is the code that produced the results here. So if the code is there, then the results can always be reproduced. So this is why I am going to show you a very, very interesting shortcut, because sometimes, when there's so much in your console, you may want to clear up your console. And in order to do that, you can just press Control L on Windows or Command L on Mac. So let me do it. Control L, and you see everything in the console has completely vanished. So it's nice. It's like you're writing on the whiteboard and then you just remove everything because you just want things to be less cluttered, in your console. So you can basically do this as well. Okay. All right, and again, Control L on Windows and Command L on Macs. Okay, now one thing that I haven't shown you is batch execution. We already know that when we have code in our script, and guys, please, I don't know if I'm going too fast or you feel I should slow down because maybe you're trying out the things that I'm doing here. But again, this code is going to be on Slack, so you can get it from there. But the batch execution is basically if you have a lot of code and you want to execute everything at once. You see, what we learned was executing each line at a time. Okay, each line one at a time. But you don't have to do it. If you want to execute everything, you can select everything and execute everything, and everything, all the results are going to show up in your console, as you can see. All right, all the results are going to show up in your console. So this is called batch execution because you are executing or running a lot of code at the same time. Okay, so Romina is saying that it doesn't work for you. What does not work for you, Romina? Can you please be a little more specific? Oh, okay. Okay, you guys are trying the function there. Okay. All right. So Kinley, I can tell you right away that you. Okay. You know what? Let me show you the chat, and that's basically what I'm. And you guys. Oh no, this is going to be horrible. But okay, I guess you can see this at least. All right. So Kinley, the problem here is with the plus that you put here. That plus is not supposed to be there. So it's going to, give you some problems. Also, it's not really well formatted, so I can't really see. Okay, so the plus here is not going to work. And Romina, you have a typo here. You have to write function, so F-U-N, not F-I-N. Okay, so that's your problem, Romina. And again, Kinley, the plus here is the problem. And if there's any other problem, I don't think there's any other problem. But that plus here is the problem. Oh yeah, Kinley, you have a second problem. Over here, your x is lowercase, and in the actual code, your x is uppercase. So this is also a problem for you, Kinley. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. Wilhelm, did you post your code because you're having an issue, or you just wanted to help out your friends in the chat who are having issues? I should have made my live code. I'm not sure why I didn't do it, because I thought that, we were just going to do basic arithmetic operations. So I was like, okay, I think we can do it. I should have made my live code. I don't want to use too much time to do it now, because, we already started some time ago and I want us to make progress. But next time, for sure, guys, when we start, there's going to be a link. And that link is going to be given to you in the chat, and you will be able to access my code live without any problem. Okay. All right. Now, guys, if you are able to correct your problem, then just let us know in the chat as well. By the way, when you make the correction, you have to execute that function before if you don't execute the function, then the changes are not going to be saved. So you have to execute the function and then save it. By the way, this is actually a very, very interesting situation we are in here. I told you about the environment, and I told you at first that the environment is where the things that you create and save, this is where they are listed. We just created a function called isEven, and you see isEven is showing up in the environment now because this is something that was created and saved. Okay, so this is why you have it here. So Kinley is saying that it's still not working. Yeah, Kinley, the second problem that you have is maybe you didn't see it clearly. I'm sorry if I was too fast, but this is supposed to be equal, not only one equal symbol. You need to have equal, no space in between. Look at the code of Wilhelm here. You see the two equal signs? We're going to talk about it actually. So I just wanted to show you something, I don't want to teach you about functions now, but all these things we're going to talk about them. Don't worry. But the equal symbol means is equal to. Okay, is equal to. That's what it means basically. Okay, guys, so let's make some progress. So we just talked about batch execution, selecting a bunch of code and then executing everything at the same time. I got a message here saying that there was something was disconnected or something like that. But okay, I'm glad to hear that we're back online. That's wonderful. Okay, so let's then continue. So I was teaching you about different ways to execute your code, and I told you that Control-Enter can be used to execute the code, and it's fairly interesting because it takes you to the next line every single time, which is good. Enter next line, enter next line. It goes to the next line automatically. Also, something that is very important to know is you don't need to put your pointer at the end of the line to execute it. So let's say that I want to execute this addition. Of course, if the pointer is here, it's going to execute, but I don't have to do that. Even if the pointer is in the middle of the line and I press Control-Enter, it's still going to work. Or even if it's at the beginning, it's still going to work. So it's very important to know that, because some people feel that they need to highlight the entire code before it works, or they feel like they have to put the pointer at the end of the line before it works. No, you don't have to do that. You just need the pointer to be on the line that you want to execute, and then when you press Control-Enter, that's perfectly fine. You can also execute your code with Alt-Enter. Okay, Alt-Enter. Now, you can try it on your Mac or on your Windows. Now the thing about Alt Enter is that it and will you please tell me if we're back? I think we're having some stream problems, unfortunately. Will you please let me know if we're back online, guys, please? But from my end, it is telling me here that everything is working perfectly, but I want to make sure that it's working perfectly on your end as well. Okay, back. Okay, guys, thank you so much. All right, so I was telling you guys that, you know, a script is basically a text file. Okay, thank you, Mr. Akatuneshi, and Willem, thank you very much. So once again, the script is text, okay? And I told you that what is in the console is not what you should really, you know, hold on to. What you should hold on to is your code. So you want to make sure that your code is clearly written, because the same code will always produce, for the most part, the same results. Not always, okay? But more often than not, the same code will produce the same results. So you really want to cherish your code. Once you write your code, you want to save it, you want to keep it somewhere, you want to add some comments and so on and so forth, because your code is this is the set of instructions that you're given to the computer. All right, so what we're going to do here is very simple. This currently is a script that is not saved, and this is why you see Untitled 1 and then a star. The star, that means that it hasn't been saved, right? So what you want to do now is to save it. You want to save your script that we can open later. All right, so that's what I'm going to do right now. There are several ways to save a script, okay? You can click on the floppy disk here, okay? And this is going to save your script, your current script, and we have only one script open right now. You can go to File and then Save, okay? And it's going to be exactly the same, okay? It's going to be exactly the same. So let me just do the easy one, okay? Just clicking here, and then it's going to ask you, where do you want to save your script, okay? Yeah, it really depends on you. I don't know, maybe you created a special folder on your computer for these courses. If you haven't, I really encourage you to do that. By the way, we are going to set up a project, and I really would love for you to have a dedicated folder on your computer for these courses, so that everything that we do, everything will be you know, kind of in the same place, and you can always go back to it. Okay, so, you know, let me just do it in my documents, okay? Just for now, let me do it in my documents. But for you, again, if you want to put it anywhere, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so now time to write the name of the file, and the name is going to be Arithmetics, like this, as one word, and I'm going to press enter, okay? Arithmetics. Now this is it right here. If you want to write the same name as me, you can see it right here, Arithmetics. And the .r is added to it automatically. You don't have to add it. You just write Arithmetics. When you create the file, RStudio will create that file as a .r file, which simply means that this is a file that contains R code, okay? And R is, again, the language, the statistical programming language that we are learning right now. All right. Okay. Okay, now there's one very important thing that we're going to do right now. We're going to shut down RStudio, and we're going to try to, you know, locate the file that we just created, and we'll try to open it up, okay? But in the process of shutting down, now, if for those of you who were able to successfully write this function, if you can see it's even on your environment here, when you try to shut down RStudio, it's going to ask you something. It's going to ask you, do you want to save your workspace? Do you want to save your workspace? In other words, RStudio is asking you, okay, you have created some stuff that you saved. Now, you are shutting down. Do you want me to keep these things that you saved, or do you want me to discard them? Okay. Now, as surprising as it may sound, you should not save your workspace. In other words, you should ask RStudio to discard everything. Now, it's very important, guys, that you don't keep the results that you have. The reason why it's important is because, your code is dynamic in the sense that maybe, when I was doing my work, I wanted 15 plus 80, but now things have changed at my company, and the actual analysis that I want to run is 15 plus 95, for example. Okay. Now, the thing about it is, when you change your code here, the result that you saved here are not going to change automatically unless you execute your code again, right? So, because your code is dynamic, you don't want to keep old results. You want to always be able to compute new results. You want the latest results to be in your environment. You don't want the old ones. So guys, let's shut down RStudio. I am not going to get this message because there's a setting that I have here that asks RStudio never to ask it to me. I'm not going to show it to you now because I want you guys to get used to not saving the workspace. And then when you get used to it, I'm going to show you how to do it. So that's not even a problem. All right, so let's shut down like this. Okay, and now I am going to go to my documents. Okay, like this. And I'm going to look for a file called Arithmetics. As you can see, I've got Arithmetics here, right? So I'm going to click on it, and lo and behold, my script is back with all the code. And the font is back to what it was before I zoomed in. All right, so the code is back. So again, this is just text. This is where our work is, and we can just save it. Okay, we can just save it, get back to it, add to it, take from it, do what we want, save, execute, and so on and so forth. So guys, this is how we'll be working, in all the projects that we're going to be talking about. All right, guys. So the last thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to teach you how to set up a project in RStudio, and that's going to be the last thing for today. When we come back next time, we're going to use some data. We're going to learn how to import some data and then do some basic data exploration. Okay. But this was the first script, and we're not going to use that script anymore anyways. But this was a really good way for us to know what the script is, the console is, and so on and so forth. I think I saw interactive maps here. Maybe this is something that you guys might want to see. Is it something that I made for interactivity purposes? Okay, yeah. So this is a project that I worked on not too long ago. This is a chunk of Texas, and this was done in R, basically. This is a chunk of Texas, and these are zip codes in Texas, and it's kind of an interactive map. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and because there's so much data, it's taking a little bit of time. But let me actually go ahead and show you where I live, guys. So this is now in the state of Louisiana. Okay, it's taking a little bit of time. And this is my city right here, guys. I live in Ruston. Okay, this is where I am right now. And maybe we can locate my house on this map or something. Okay, but this was done in R. And the reason why it's taking a little bit of time is because I plotted so much data on it. What you're seeing right now is just colors, but behind the colors, there's a lot of data, a lot of points that were mapped basically, and it's an interactive map. I just thought that I would show it to you, just to show you that R can do some cool things. And I've worked on a few projects too that I can present to you at some point if you guys want to see what R can do. Okay, so anyways, let's shut it down, and we're going to create a project. So as I told you guys, I really encourage you to create a folder, and in that folder, let everything that we're going to do be in that folder. So I'm going to do it with you here. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it, Data Science with R, like this. Okay. So that's the folder in which everything that we're going to do here is going to reside. Okay, everything that we're going to do is going to reside in that folder. So maybe I should have put the arithmetics file there too, but well, it's fine, no problem. Okay, now inside this data science with R, and you see, okay, this is not a problem anymore. It used to be a long time ago for programming languages. When you name something, try as much as you can to not add spaces in your names. Okay, it's not a problem anymore. Even if you have spaces, it's going to work perfectly. I don't know, I still have it in my mind because back in the day, spaces could create some problems. So R does not have any problem like that. But I don't know, it's still part of me, I guess. So I never put a space in the names of my files. Okay, so data underscore science underscore with underscore R, uppercase R. Okay, now inside this folder, we're going to create a folder for our first project. Okay, a folder for our first project. And this folder is going to be, we're going to call it flights analysis. Okay, because this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be analyzing flights data. Okay, and we'll learn more about it. Don't worry. So flight analysis. Okay. And right now, there's nothing in that folder, right? Nothing in the folder right now, okay? But this is a folder that was created as a way to as a way to prepare for the project that we're going to work on. This is where our flights project will reside. Now, let's go back to RStudio. Let's just open up RStudio. Okay, of course you'll still see arithmetics, which is the old file that we worked on. You can keep it there, that's not a problem. And if you did not save your workspace, your environment should be empty once again. If you see is even in your environment, it means that you saved your workspace, and that's not really something you want to do. Okay, you don't want to save your workspace. So if is even is still there, then you've saved your workspace. And if you're in that situation, please reach out to me later and I'll show you how to work on it. But we just have just a few minutes left for this session today, so I want to actually go straight to the point. We're going to talk about all these in subsequent streams. Okay, so how do we create a new project? File, new project. Okay, file, new project. Or we can click on this blue icon here, create a project. Okay, you can just choose whatever you want. Okay, so when you do that, you have three options. You have new directory. Okay, that is, if you want RStudio to create a new folder for you, you can pick this. Okay, or you can pick existing directory, which means that you created your own folder and you want RStudio to make it an R project for you. And that's exactly what we did. We created flights analysis and we want RStudio to make that folder a project folder for us. And version control, hopefully we get to that point of learning version control. Is a very powerful tool. If some of you have experience with version control, maybe you've heard of GitHub or GitLab or things like that. So let's go to existing directory and then browse. So what we want to do now is we want to look for that folder that we created ourselves that we want to transform into an R project. Okay, so we'll have to browse for it. All right, so I put it on my desktop. So I now have to look for my desktop. I think it's in users, right? This PC, yeah, desktop right here, and data science with R, okay, and flights analysis. So I was able to locate it now, right? So you don't want to go inside flights analysis, you just want to highlight it. You want to click on it once and you want to make sure that the name of that folder that you want to turn into your R project shows up here by just clicking on it once. Okay, once you see it, flights analysis, you can just click on open. Okay, and finally create project. Okay, open and then create project. All right, so when you create project, you see RStudio will kind of reboot. Okay, it will reboot. And when it reboots, these are the things that changed. If you look at your files anymore, right here before, for me, all the files and folders in my documents, and I think in Mac, I think it's called home or something like that, but all the files in my documents were listed. But now I don't have this anymore. And if you look at the top right corner, you should be able to see the name of the folder that we created, which is flights_analysis, like this. Okay, and actually inside the folder something happened. So now I'm going to go out back to the folder that we created, flights analysis. I'm going to try to look inside, and you see there's something. It was empty before, but it is no longer empty. We now have something in it. We have an R project file. You see the type is R project. Okay, R project file. All right, so what does this mean? It simply means that now in the eyes of RStudio, okay, this folder called flights analysis is the house or the home for a new project. So it's really good whenever you want to do some sort of work to create homes for your work, so that you kind of organize your work well, and you are able to do a better job. And actually there are some interesting things when you create a project that you can do, especially when you want to refer to a file. These are things that we're going to talk about in our next stream. Don't worry about it for now. But just remember, if you want to do some sort of work, it's always better to create a project, and then do everything inside that project instead of just doing it like that, in a random script. Let all your script be part of a project. Okay, so of course, there are many things that we are going to create inside this flights analysis project folder. For example, we'll have one folder for data, one folder for our report, one folder for visualization, one folder for things, so this is how we're going to organize our work like that. Okay, all right, guys. So the last thing is, when you are inside, that you're inside a project because the name of the project is showing up here, but you can actually get out of your project too. You can close the project, and I'm going to teach you how to close the project now. You can click on this name here. You see, I've worked on so many projects, you can see them, show up here, but you can just go to close project. Okay, you can just go to close project. Okay, and when I click on close project, it's going to take me back to arithmetics, which wasn't inside the project. By the way, if you go back to this top right corner, you'll see project none, meaning that we're not inside a project. We just created a random script. We did some work in it. That's fine. It wasn't part of a project, but that's fine too. But it's really good to know what the difference is. Okay. But now if I want to go back to my project, I can just click on it, look for the project name, flights analysis, click on it, and then the project will open up again. All right, but this is something that we'll do next time. All right, guys, this was our second live stream for our introduction to data science with R for beginners, and I hope that you were able to learn. So I also told you that at the very end I was going to talk about the stream schedule, and this is what I want to do now. So you're very welcome, Romina. So the stream schedule, so I told you, I introduced myself in the first stream, and I told you that I'm a professor. I'm a tenure track professor of economics at Louisiana Tech University. And currently we are in the spring quarter, so classes are going on now. But because of the situation, we are doing everything online. So I am quite busy at the moment, actually taking care of my classes, giving online exams, giving online lectures through videos and things like that. So for now, because the quarter is in session, we are going to meet twice a week. Okay, we're going to meet twice a week, and the schedule is going to be Tuesdays and Saturdays at 2 p.m. Okay, Tuesdays and Saturdays at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, okay, which is my time zone. But when the quarter is over, we will be meeting 3 times a week, okay, so that we can learn a little faster. The quarter is going to be over mid-May, so basically in 1 month. So we'll be meeting twice a week for about a month, and then after that we can speed up the process. And of course, if we speed up the process and we meet 3 times a week, we will be able to cover a lot more, much faster, learn interesting things. Okay, and yeah, that's basically it. Chen1, you're very welcome as well. Okay, guys, like I did last time, let me do exactly the same. Oh, yes, now I remember this. Some of you do not know that Slack, there's also an application for Slack. So please download the Slack application on your phone, whether you have an Android or an iOS phone, an iPhone, please go ahead and download this application on your phone and download it on your computer as well. So many of you use it from your browser online, but you don't have to do it. You can download the applications and then interact like that. And I think whenever there's an announcement or something like that, it's actually going to be much better. You can get it right away. Okay. So yeah. Now, do you guys happen to have any question at all? Anything you would like to know before we get out? Any question? And yeah, Mr. Aka, you're very welcome, my brother. You're very welcome. Okay, any question you guys have, or everything is okay? If everything is okay, then we can say goodbye for now. Meet on Tuesday. At 2 p.m. CST. So I'm just going to wait a few seconds and see if maybe some of you are asking questions. Okay, well, it seems that no one has a question. Well, that's perfect. It means that you guys understand. Now, guys, in the meantime, do not hesitate to ask questions on the Slack channel. So let me actually do this very quickly. This is our Slack channel right here. So this is the application on my computer, and you have the questions channel that I created. So actually, Shen1 asked a question about Bayesian statistics, and then I try to give him some videos to help him out. But if you have any question, guys, you can go on there on the questions tab and and ask your questions. That's perfectly fine. And if you haven't done so yet, please go to the introduce yourself tab and tell us something about us. So this is our newest member, Romina. Well, thank you once again for joining us today. So I'm just going to try and create as many channels as possible, as needed, I would say. Okay, so Shen1 says no question, that's fine. William says no question, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so free resources too. I have a few other resources that I want to put up here. I'm going to do that. Okay. All right, guys. I think that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care, guys. Stay safe. God bless, and let's meet in 2 days, guys. All right. Take care, guys.